Welcome to the Deep End, where nothing's off limits and no topic is too deep. We're John and Jessica, diving straight into raw, real, and unfiltered conversations that hit hard and make you think.
If you're ready to break boundaries and challenge the norm, then hold on tight, because we're about to go deep.
Had this conversation with my baby, my 22-year-old daughter, and it was based off of a Instagram post that I had come across about how parents are going to need to ask forgiveness of their children for something that they did, right? And I think, if I recall correctly in the video, the person was more so speaking to millennial parents, and he was saying that millennial parents really lack follow through, right? And so in asking how does that manifest in their children? And then he also spoke to say like would it be the boomers would be like our parents?
Yes.
Or whatever. Okay. So
Our
like
parents are the boomers.
how the boomers would be like super, super, super hard on us. Like follow through was never a thing with them, you know? And then what that created in us, but then lacking follow through, what that's going to cause in our kids. So I sent that post to my daughter and I asked her, I was like, I'm curious about your perspective about this. Like, do you think that I lacked follow through? So she say, you were too strict. She say, I think you did everything you could to make sure I wouldn't be a teen parent, but I had zero room to make a mistake. And little things I did was magnified so much. Like we always say I was never a bad child, but I definitely think you punished me way too hard for the things I did do. So now I feel like I'd be afraid, and she put in parentheses, maybe hesitant to take risks, but I'm always fearing for the worst case scenario, right? And so that just opened up my eyes, right? Because of course, us as parents, we know our perspective. We know why we're doing, what we're doing it for, and all of that, but we never really check in with our kids to find out what their experiences are. And so just the same as that guy's video saying, what are your children going to have to forgive you for?
Yeah.
She's going to have to forgive me for being too strict. Although she lying. I wasn't too strict. There's going to be something she's going to have to forgive me about. So let's get into that.
How did you feel when she wrote that? Because that was like unexpectedly deep.
It was. That's my baby though. It was, and I honestly did not expect that response, right? I expected her to be like, yeah, you was in our asses essentially, but yeah, we had a great time, you know, because that's what I thought it was for me as a parent. So to get this deep response, I'm like, well, damn, you know, but I'm a very objective person. And I actually did tell her, I was like, that's interesting that you thought and that you believe that I was too strict. That's actually kind of funny to me. But that's your experience, and I respect that. And I asked her, like, what are some of the things that you believe you were punished too harshly for by me? And I asked her, just, give me some examples of that so that I can now connect with you on it. Because like I said, there's my experience and then there is hers. Now, the whole thing about being a teen parent or me trying to prevent her from being a teen parent, although that was never like my motivation, I had to accept that that's the dot that she connected. And that's okay.
Right.
It's fine. But that just creates room for us to be able to meet each other in dialogue. That's how I look at it. So I didn't really feel nothing. It was really interesting.
I don't think we can win because my story is going to be the complete opposite. I'm sure my kid was like, you're too pushover. You're too much of a pushover.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm a pushover
for
them.
And you know that.
I know that because there's not too many things they can ask for that I wouldn't give them. And my daughters know that, but then sometimes they act like they resent that.
That's interesting. So I have always believed that kids need discipline. Okay, they crave it. And I know that was something that we were taught as kids. I'm sure we heard in some way. But like seeing it as a parent, like these kids really need it. And probably you could speak to the psychology behind it, but I feel like that discipline does somehow communicate love to them, even when they don't want it.
Sure.
Okay, they want to just get away with doing whatever the hell they want to do. But when a parent does put their foot down, they're somehow absorbing that, okay, this person cares about me.
Now, there are some things that let me be clear. I'm not a pushover on
I
everything.
ain't calling you a bad dad. Yeah.
It's when it's little things, we'll talk it out and most likely we'll come to some agreement. I'm okay with them working out a compromise. So if they come to me and they say, hey, Dad, I want to drive, and they're 12, I'm going to say, at first, I'm going to say, hold on, it's not legal for you to
Oh my
drive
God,
at 12.
boo.
You can't do this. But if you want to start driving, here's what we can do. You can't drive like you want to drive, like all over the city, but we'll go find an empty parking lot.
I'm curious. I'm curious about your upbringing based off of that, because everybody I knew was driving by 12.
Oh,
14.
man, younger than that.
Exactly. So I'm saying, so why you doing? Well, it's illegal. Like with your kids, like they know that.
We live in a different time.
Oh my God.
We live in a different time.
Parking lots.
Man, when I grew up, man, the way I learned how to drive was my stepdad took us to a location, grabbed a 4-wheeler, jumped off of it, or a mini bike, jumped off it, drove home and said, I'll meet you there.
I'm here for it. Here for it.
And I'm now, granted, I'm a lot more of a risk taker than my wife is, because my daughter, who is now 15, who wants to drive, she'll be 16 and getting her license in like less than a month. And I let her drive all the time. She drives every morning, and secretly sometimes I let her drive by. I drive by herself. No, my wife would flip if she knew that I let my daughter drive by herself.
I mean, it's a month away.
Okay, tell me this then. Let's go back to baby boomers.
Yeah.
Were baby boomers less responsible than we are? Because right now I feel like it's my obligation, my responsibility to make sure my children are safe. Whereas my parents allowed us to do a lot.
But okay, so I think, yes, great question. I think we got to probably break down like that. What has allowed us to do a lot? Because I believe from our experiences, we kind of had to do a lot. Not that they allowed us to, but they were working. I don't know, I came from initially a one-parent household, and then I moved in with my grandparents. But when it was just my mom and I, and with my sister, she was working. She was doing her thing. So it was like we were latchkey kids. That wasn't necessarily her allowing us to do whatever. That's just the circumstances that we are in. So did you have maybe a similar?
I did, but even when they were home, they had a certain expectation that there's certain things we just need to handle. Like, for example, you didn't come inside. You don't keep coming in and out of our house.
Absolutely.
You go outside, you come back when the street lights come on.
You stay out there.
And they expected that you knew how to do a couple of things. You knew not to talk to strangers. You knew not to get in fight and make us look bad. You knew not to be disrespectful to adults. You don't break the law.
Right.
And so other than that, you go have fun. You were expected to go out there and have fun. I don't see parents doing that these days with their kids.
They're not. I think, God, this is going to be crazy. Yeah, I think parents today, they don't want to be inconvenienced.
You think it's an inconvenience thing?
It's an inconvenience, it seems, to these parents who just let the social media, the phones, the tablets, the TV and stuff raise their kids.
Now, I get that. Now, I do get that. Like, I think parents nowadays need to do the hard thing and take social media not completely away, but manage it better.
Right.
But what I'm speaking to is the freedom to not worry about whether or not they're going to get hurt. I'm talking about, I don't know how back then parents were more relaxed about their kids going out and exploring the world.
And we did.
Than now. Because now I'm definitely afraid to allow my girls to just go roam the neighborhood or go walk go to the corner store.
Right. And so, like, I guess I would have to say that it may have just something to do with, like what you said, times are different now. Yeah. But are we really more in danger than we were back then? This is what I think. So I grew up in projects, project communities. And of course, if you know anything about project communities, there are kids, an abundance of kids. Yes.
Everywhere.
So I always had kids to play with, outside. And it was nothing for us, a gang of kids, to go walk to the corner store.
Right.
get our candies, our snacks and stuff like that, and come back. I mean, it would be little kids from 1, 2-year-old, 3-year-olds on up to 16-year-olds, just a gang of us, right? And nobody messed with us. Like
Right.
nobody. Like
Right.
and everybody,
Right.
like the older people, the adults, the parents and stuff,
Yep.
they all knew who we were. They all looked out for us. We walked to the corner store, Like so you're entrusting your 12-year-old, your 10-year-old would say like their little 3-year-old brother, a sister.
Right.
So walk across the street with cars.
Right.
That was what we did. But we
Right.
wouldn't dare do that now.
No.
Right? And so like I think maybe it just has something to do with we're just removed from those types of I'm gonna call them luxuries, for the sake of this conversation. I'm not sure.
Or maybe we've gotten too
Soft.
uppity.
Yeah.
We got too uppity. We have more to lose. So back then, we didn't have, because it was unheard of. You didn't hear about a lot of wealthy black families or families that were affluent.
We got more to lose.
And so we had less to lose. We have more to lose now, so we're trying to hold on to our little pocket that we have, and we don't want anyone coming in influencing it or taking away. Whereas when we didn't have anything, or when we were in the struggle, let's say that, we depended on our neighbor for sugar. We depended on our neighbor, for babysitting, for getting our hair done. We were more of a community.
We were. And there was a code back then, too, that, like, we don't have that code no more. So, like, I'm in my subdivision, and I don't know my neighbors. My neighbors don't know me.
Right.
Like, I don't even see them people. Yep. They barely see me out the house, and then because I don't have kids, young kids anymore. But I don't even see kids playing outside anymore. Whereas back in the projects, we all knew each other. All the kids played with each other. And so, like you said, that sense of community is gone. Right. And I don't know if that, I think I do know, and I think you touched on it. We have more to lose now. So we're not outside, or grown folks are not outside sitting on the stoops no more. Because they got jobs.
And in the kids' business, because there would be certain people's houses we knew in the neighborhood were watching us. And if we were doing something before we could get home, our parents knew.
Sure did.
Now, if I don't purposely go through my kids' phones and stay in touch with their friends' family, there'll be a whole bunch of things I would not know. It is so much easier for them to hide what they're doing and secretly do stuff.
So I'm just glad to know that you go through your kids' phones. I did that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that was a big thing for me. Yeah, I did not play that. And like to that point, right, back in the day, with you being a guy, you probably have more fear about this than I do. But like, do you recall like ever calling like a girl's house that you liked and you wanted to talk to her on the phone, but you had to talk to her daddy first just to get to her?
Yeah, my story is a little different.
Okay.
Because I was that shy dude. By the time I was like really into that, I was an upper teenager, young adult. So it wasn't that. But yes, I do remember having to ask permission. Can so and so talk?
Right.
Or can so and so come to? We're doing this. Can so and so come? And they would ask me a bunch of questions, talk to my mom, all that good stuff before they did. It felt like that's what we were supposed to do. It felt normal. And I still expect that from my kids. My kids can't just tell their friends, hey, I'm hanging out.
I get you, but my point with like that distinction is they friends have a direct line to them.
Yes.
They do no longer have to go through a parent to get to them. I remember calling one of my good girlfriends in probably like 5th, 6th grade. And this is now when I'm with my grandparents. And so I call her house, her mama answered the phone. And I was like, can I speak to Renee? She goes, hello, Mads, who's speaking? And I say, this is Jessica. She said, Jessica, when you call my house, you say hello. You address me.
Yes.
You say hello, Mrs. So-and-so. Right.
Yeah, you're right. Nah, you brought back some memories on that one.
Okay, and I did that going forward because she schooled me. She told me, but these kids don't know them rites of passages. They're not going through. They don't have respect. I ain't trying to go into that, but they don't. They don't know what we went through. And I'm not saying went through like it was really something, crazy, but it was just all a part of it. It's like you said, your kids got a direct line to them. then they come. I'm sorry, your kids' friends got a direct line to them, and then your kids come to you to ask you for something.
Right.
Well, we had to, like you said, you had to suffer through it, maybe even asking the parents.
Right.
Okay, hey, Mr. So-and-so, can whatever come to this carnival or whatever? Like, yeah, it's just totally different, right?
I remember being on the phone and my mom would listen to my conversation.
Showed it. Picked
And
up
you
that
wouldn't
phone.
know. You had to look. You had to listen for that little. You get that one little tone. If they catch, but if they catch it right, you
change your
won't know it,
conversation.
and they'll hear your whole
Yes,
conversation.
right.
So yeah, I definitely. It was definitely a different time.
It was a different time. Yeah.
It was definitely a different time. So I want to go back
Yeah.
to the not knowing what our kids are being exposed to. I think that's a disadvantage. I don't know how to defeat that because they're getting messages from all over the place.
Correct.
A lot of messages. And I'll give you this one story. My daughter was hanging with a friend who hated her parents. And so she was always pointing out negativity towards her parents and towards adults in general. And I noticed that my daughter started picking up some of
Right.
those same thoughts and was projecting that on us. And I remember having to sit her down like, tell me how I'm bad. Tell me how I'm a terrible parent
Make it
and
make
I'm
sense
making
for
your
you.
life miserable. And she couldn't. I was like, maybe you're getting it. And I broke it down to her. I said, maybe you're getting influenced by this friend.
Right.
And this is why I don't want you hanging with her no more. And she got mad
You be all right.
for sure. Because after about a week or two of not hanging with her, she went back to normal, back to loving us.
See.
And I pointed that out to her. I was like, you love us again ever since you haven't had access to it. And she told us, she was like, you're right. I didn't realize how negative she was. But they're getting influences like this from all different directions.
They
How do we deal with that?
Whew, that's really a good question. And I'm not sure if we can. And that's the hard pill to swallow because social media is a trip, bruh. I
It's a
mean,
beast.
like the internet itself has given people, but definitely our children, access to so many different people, and not even their age groups, and we cannot control all of that. So I'm not sure. So like I had a rule in my house for my girls that they could not have social media. I think it was until 16. They were 16 or 17. Yeah, and I was adamant. And that was back when
I wish I did that.
Snapchat and stuff was like huge, and it was
Yeah.
some other stuff. And I don't even know. I'm not a social media person, so I don't even know the stuff. But I know that all of their friends had it, But I was like, on y'all's phones that I pay for, no, y'all can't have it. Now, granted, I'm sure they got onto it with their little friends or whatever.
Right.
But that was just my way of trying to preserve their childhood and protect them as long as I could. And of course, they hated me for that. They couldn't
Right.
stand being the only kid. I'm the only one in the world who doesn't have. You will live and be okay. I don't
Right.
care. But that was really all I
And
could
probably
do.
better for it in the long run that you waited before you allowed them to develop emotionally, because you know how
Right.
many kids are controlled by likes.
Oh my gosh. It's
And
not
this-
even just kids. It's grown folk too.
Grown
Yeah.
folks too. I'm working with my oldest daughter, and I talk to her because she is, kind of getting into the stage of independence. But she'll do these things, and then she's looking at her phone, waiting for everyone to like her.
Gosh.
And I'm saying,
Yeah.
you gotta like yourself, despite what
Right.
anybody else does. It doesn't matter if they like you or not. You gotta like yourself, and if you're waiting for them to like you to feel validated, we're doing something wrong.
Terribly wrong.
And I
Yeah.
try to reach out to her, but I still see she's waiting for those likes, and
Right.
she'll do these little silly TikToks, and all of her friends have to like it, or she feels some kind of way.
And so, like, I think there's a slight difference between the ages of your kids versus mine. So, like, with mine being a little older, they were already a little older when all of this stuff really
Popped off.
Yeah, popped off. Your kid's born into it.
Right
So
into
that's
it.
a whole other beast in itself, you know,
Right.
and like really what can you do? You buy them a phone, it already comes with the apps installed on it, you know? It's like, yeah, so what do you do?
We're going to get you flip phones.
Go
Everybody
back
getting a
to
flip
it,
phone.
right.
Hey, so everyone out there that's following us, subscribing, listening, please tell us what you're doing to navigate this world of raising our kids.
Or are you not being inconvenienced? Not doing nothing.
Yeah, and hey, let's tell the truth.
Yeah.
If you're not doing anything, you letting them have the whole gamut. Let us know if they're okay. You know, let us know if they're turning out. Because once again, there's no rhyme to reason. I have met kids who came from horrific backgrounds, and they were the greatest kids
Right.
in the
Ain't
world.
that crazy?
And I've had kids who came from very affluent, everything they wanted, loved 2-parent homes, and they were a terror.
Yeah.
So there's no
Terror.
rhyme or reason.
There is no rhyme or reason. This is why I tell everybody we all fuck up our kids. All of
Right.
us. Like, the best intentioned parents are gonna fuck their kids up.
So how do we stop? What do we do? I don't want to mess my kids up.
And I know we never
don't
want
to mess them
to.
up.
We never want to. And I've been one of those parents where I'm like, because I know I'm going to do this. Of course, it's not my intent and it's not my goal, but it's gonna happen. And I believe it's gonna happen because I cannot control the way even my good intentions lands on somebody else. And so, for example, my daughter saying that she feels like she did not have room to make mistakes. And so now she questions everything that she does. All right, boo. Feel that way. You know what I'm saying? But like, I know that I gave you the absolute best. And I think sometimes as parents, that's just what we're going to have to be okay with. And then when it gets to that point where they feel like, well, you did or you didn't, maybe just try to walk with them in that and don't beat them over the head with it.
You know, man, you hit home with something. Just then. And you know, I wasn't always a good guy. I mean, good kid. You know, there was some times where I was definitely a knucklehead. I thrive now in being a good person.
Can't even see that.
I don't even mind people saying, "Oh man, you too soft" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm good with that because I already played that hard role. I did.
Ew.
Oh my goodness, I did. Jessica, if you knew, you'd been like, "What?" But there's some people who knew. So, okay, I don't like glorifying in the details.
Okay.
But I will say I was such a knucklehead that me and my brother did something with a couple of friends that landed us in jail.
You was in jail, clank, clank.
Clink, clink. So I was a juvenile, so I went to the juvenile detention center. My brother was an adult, so he went to the big jail. He wasn't an adult. He was 19, 20. But still, they put him in the big jail because we were just out there being stupid. And I remember, now you got to understand, let me give you some background. My mom, part of our life was a single parent.
Okay.
She did remarry and so forth, but part of her life, especially during our teenage years, she was a single parent. I think she was just focused on raising her kids. She had 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. And so she had teenage boys, and she did everything. She poured everything she could into us. Now that I see it from this point of view. But I didn't care when I was a teenager. I was more concerned with proving one to my brother that, you take me seriously, and to the world that I was a man.
Trying to get your street cred. Yeah.
Very much so. Very much so. And so I remember being in the juvenile detention center. We were playing basketball, and you could see the parking lot because one side was the juvenile detention center, the other side was the jail for the adults. And I could see my mom parked in the parking lot with her head on the car like she was in distress. And I knew what was going on because it was getting ready time for visitation. And the adult jail and the juvenile jail's visitation was at the same time, and she only had time to go to one.
Oh, wow.
Right. And I was praying to God that it wasn't me.
Right.
I was like, yo, pick him. Go see my brother. Don't come see me. I did not want to see her. So we walked back inside, and the guard comes in and calls me. Ruffin. I was like, yo, I'm not going. I know I'm not going. And I remember this guard, man, big dude. And he came over, he was like, your mom here, man, you better get up.
Right, your mom.
Like you need to get up. And that particular day, nobody else had visitation. Nobody else, parents or family came. It was just, so we were in the cafeteria, me and my mom, sitting by ourselves and a guard. And I'm waiting for my mom to chew me out. I'm waiting for my mom to, cuss me out, yell at me, scream at me, call me every bad name in the book she could think of, which is outside of her character.
Okay.
But she didn't. She just looked at me for a while. She started crying. And then she says, I failed you.
Child.
And at this point, I'm like crying, like tears are coming out of my eyes because I felt how much pain she was going through. And I remember saying to her, you didn't fail me. You were a great parent. I'm just being silly. And she says, that can't be the case because both of my sons are locked up.
Dang, ma.
What did I do? Like she was having this philosophical dilemma with herself.
Right.
She's like, what did I do?
It has to be me.
What did I do to cause both of my sons to go astray?
Right.
And she's just like dwelling in herself, trying to figure out what she did. And she's searching me to figure out what she did wrong. Like I could see her going back over my lifespan and trying to see where she messed up.
Yeah.
And she was just, and I held her hand and I was like, I just want this. At that point, I just wanted to soothe her. And I held her hand and I looked her in the eyes while she was in my soul. And I was like, Ma, you will never, ever see me in a place like this again. I promise you, this is the last time I'm going to make a mistake like this. And I promised her, and she didn't even say anything. She just got up and left. Wow. And
did you keep that promise?
Oh, I kept it.
Oh, okay.
Tremendously kept it. From that point, literally from that point on, I started going to work to turn things around. Because I was a knucklehead. I have degrees now, but do you know I started off, I had to get a GED?
There's just so much I don't know about you.
Right.
Like.
The reason I had to is because the state of Florida said I was a danger to the students at public school.
Danger?
I was a danger.
You. What was you doing, John?
Why would I lie? I'm telling you.
I'm a fighter, and I wasn't even a danger. So I'm trying to understand.
They told me, it's official, I got the paperwork. They told me I was a danger to the public school system, so they couldn't allow me to come back in, and they expelled me.
Yeah.
And so my only option was to go to get my GED. But at that point, I determined, I got rid of all of my friends, every last one of them. They would come to the door, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. Everything that you could think of, I just started doing. I started going to classes at Valencia College to get ready for my GED prep, so I can take my GED. And then the story after that was amazing. God stepped in. I said, God, I want to change my ways. And I started really like honing in on what God wanted from me. And we don't have enough time, trust me, we don't, but I can tell you an amazing story that happened to me afterwards to lead me to where I am now.
Wow.
I mean, from going to college, because college wasn't even in my future. I wasn't even thinking about college. I was just thinking about the next day. But now I tell this story because when I was 17, 18, I didn't care what work my parents were putting in to make sure I was okay. I didn't care what my mom was doing. And I loved my mom. It wasn't like I didn't love her, but I didn't care. I couldn't see that she was working 2 jobs and barely hanging on. And, she fight to make us go to church. I didn't want to go to church. She fight to make us go to church and fight to make us pray at night and fight to, think about God and fight to make sure that we were trying to do our best. I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't, for some reason, my brain would not register care until I became an adult.
And that's what happens, though.
So I became an adult.
I think we, think all of us, I don't even want to say most of us, I think all of us have that experience where there is what we think we know as teenagers or even young adults, and we find out in real adulthood we were stupid. We thought we knew something. So yeah. But like back to like your mama though, like when she had come to see you, you was in a clank. And I hope it's not like a trigger, nothing like that for you. I hope
Nah,
you
not at
work
all.
that out.
I'm way past that point, man.
Like I can understand from a parental space that she would view it the way that she did. You know, this is something that I obviously did or did not do. And, you know, why is that? And I think that we human beings, I think a part of our existence is supposed to learn that, I guess we're really self-absorbed, and not trying to like make a mockery out of like your moms. I have the same feelings too with my kids, but it's like not everything is really about us.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
People are people. Circumstances and situations, you know, things that are out of our control are going to affect our children. You know, that does not make some of our children's decisions do not make them our fault. But I think that that's really difficult for us to see and to accept, and that's the part that I don't really understand.
As
like
teenagers.
Why? As teenagers, definitely.
And this is why community is so important. You know, something that always lingered with me was a 2-second conversation I had with my grandfather. 2 or 3 seconds. So I didn't have my father in my life, period. Maybe saw him a handful of times. I remember one Christmas, because my brother had a different father. And I remember his father coming and picking him up and taking him out for Christmas. And I was sitting at my grandfather's table by myself. And I wasn't crying or nothing. I was just quiet. It was Christmas Eve. And I was just quiet, just sitting there, minding my own business, thinking like, man, I wish I had a dad or something like that. And my grandfather, out of the blue, came down, sat beside me, and he says, sometimes God doesn't give you what you have because what you have would hurt you more than help you.
Boy, you said something.
That's all he said. And he got back up and said, you'll be okay. And he left.
Yeah.
And this, you don't understand, this granddad was like the meanest cuss you would ever meet. He drank a beer every day, a couple of times a day, smoked a cigarette every time you saw him, and he would just like yell at you for everything. That's my heat getting out. Shut that door.
Yes,
you know.
good time.
But in this moment, he showed compassion, and it strengthened me. It took it from then on. I don't remember ever worrying about what my brother got that I didn't get.
Right.
I didn't worry about it no more because I was like, you know what? Maybe I've been looking at this wrong. If I have especially knowing who my dad was, I was like, if I have my dad, man, I'd probably be screwed up too.
Right.
And I was like, man, I thank God I'm not screwed up like that. And I started looking, I started becoming grateful for it.
And
never wore that. No, I'm sorry, but just never wore that as a weight anymore.
Yeah, and speaking like to that self-absorbed that we are, like all we know is what we want, what we have, what we don't have, and that there is potentially something or somebody out there that's missing that has it. How do we even come up with that, right? How do we believe that, like my father wasn't there also, but if my father was there, my life wouldn't be this hard. How I know that?
Right.
We start telling ourselves all these ridiculous fantasy type of stories, you know? Sure. I mean, they're all, I guess, in psychology, just like coping mechanisms or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I had the same scenario, the same story that you had. So like, I learned who my father was when I was 12, right? Never knew who he was before then. He was in South Florida my entire life. When we got contact, the relationship was weird. It was weird, right? Because all of these years I wanted a father, and I had fantasized on what a father, what having one would look like, and it wasn't nothing like that, you know? But I was still trying to make things happen. But then it got to the point in high school for me where I was like, why am I the only one trying? I'm the kid. Like you should be trying. So years go by. I have my daughter. My daughter and I are struggling, okay? Struggling. And so I reached out to my dad for assistance with purchasing a car because we really needed one. He was like, no, I can't buy you a car because we just bought a car for Robin. Robin's my stepsister, my youngest stepsister. And so that pissed me off, right?
Sure.
So I'm like, how you gonna buy her a car? She ain't even your blood. I'm your blood, and you can't even buy me a car. And so I got to the point where I just cut him off. Yeah. Like I went years and would not talk to him. They would call me. Him and my stepmom would call me for years. I would not answer the phone. I changed my number. They never had it. None of that, right? Because I was just like, fuck you, essentially, because you're not living up to this expectation, this ideal that I had in my head. So my dad is very, very old. So like right now, he makes 90 this year, right? Wow. So exactly. So a few years back, I started thinking like, what if my dad died and I left things the way that they were, years ago? Would I be okay with myself like that? So then I ended up reaching out, did some research, and I'm finding his address and stuff like that. They had moved to McDonough, Georgia. And so I showed up at their house.
Wow, you showed up.
I showed up. I pulled up. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know what to expect. You show up.
Right.
Like, oh,
so I pull up and they weren't there, but they my friend and I were walking away from the house, and then they drive up as we were walking away to get back into the car, and they were like, hello, can we help you? They didn't even, didn't know it was me. And then I was like, oh, it's me, Jessica. My stepmom was driving and my dad was in the passenger seat. And so he just hopped out the car before she could even put it in park. Jumps out, my baby, and comes and hugs and gives me this big hug, right? So we go inside the house. And so I told him that I wanted to share with him explain why I had the distance, why I cut him off. And I told them all the things that I just told you. My stepmom told me the same thing your granddaddy told you. And she was just like, baby, I know what you thought. Your daddy ain't shit. She said, yo daddy ain't shit. In front of him, he's sitting right there.
Right.
He ain't shit. So he raised my niece, okay, his grandbaby. And she was like, you know that we raised your niece, right? And your daddy abused her. I'm going to let you know this right now, that if you had him in your life, you think your life was bad, it would have been so much worse. Wow. She said this in front of this man, right? Yeah. And he couldn't say nothing but just sit there and take it. But to your point, that was all the perspective that I needed to release that, right? Yep. So, I mean, the best parents, the best intentioned parents, the worst parents, they gonna all find a way to fuck us up, Right. We gonna all find a way, and when I say find a way, I'm not, being literal, but we gonna all find a way to fuck up our kids. It's like even with me and my children, like I am a planner, okay, and I believe in proper planning. And what's the statement? Prevents performance or something like that. Yeah. So I'm huge on that. And so my kids growing up, whenever they wanted to do anything, what's the plan? Tell me the plan. Like, you got to give me the details. And so I remember my daughter telling me one time that because I instilled planning in them, like, so hard, that she's unsure of making decisions. Like, she doesn't trust herself without having a fully vetted out plan.
Right.
I am not going to apologize to you for that.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because one thing I've noticed, so I have this saying with my daughter, better safe than sorry. Mm-hmm. When she started driving, that was the first thing. So a light would be yellow, and I say, stop. She was like, why? I could have made it. Better safe than sorry. Right. And I would say that over and over when we first started driving, better safe than sorry. And now I notice, like, that's the one thing that she thinks about, because now if a light's been yellow, where we normally would speed up, she always stops.
Right.
And I can see it in her head, better safe than sorry. Yeah. She won't say it, but I can see it's like, better safe than sorry. Yeah. And so I really think it goes back to that biblical saying, you teach a child the way they should go, and when they get older, they won't depart from it. I think the lessons that we do give, stick with them.
They do.
Because I know the things my mom gave me, even though at the time I didn't care what she was going through, and that's unfortunate. Mom, I'm sorry.
Aww.
Hey, let me take a moment. You have raised the man in front of you. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry for, as a teenager, not recognizing all the work you did to make me the man I am. And I appreciate you for that. I just want to say that because
Of course.
it's so important to remember as parents that, yes, your kids right now may not care what you're doing, but you don't stop doing it because they will take it on later on as they mature and get older.
Right.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. I fought my kids. Not physically, but I'm saying like
Right.
you gonna do what I say. Like,
Yeah.
because it's not as if I am instilling in you foolishness. I'm
Right.
instilling in you, I'm teaching you, I'm training you in the ways of a successful adult, So it's like,
Right.
boo, take it or leave it. So
And that's
whatever.
that's so important. And I want to give you kudos on that because you could have been like, and I've seen parents who are like, I don't care. Do what you want.
Ooh.
I'm just wild. I don't care. I didn't want you
don't-
anyway.
Ooh.
You acting crazy. You could do what you want to do. I don't care how you end up, forget you. I know parents. I've seen parents do that. And the parents that say, no, I'm going to fight through it. I'm going to push my kids to be the best that they could possibly be. I don't care how much anger and attitude they give me. I tell my
Right.
kids all the time, it's so much easier to ignore you. It would be easier
It really is though.
to ignore you. It would be easier to
Yeah.
ignore you than to fight with you. So like, I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna keep fighting, but let you know, it'd be easier to ignore you.
Less
And
money.
but we don't. Don't give
Right.
up because they need that fight, like you said.
Right. But then even that fight, even like I said, the best intentions, it's still going to
Yeah.
manifest
Yeah.
itself some
Sure.
way in them
Sure.
where they're gonna be looking at you crazy.
Have you ever had this phenomenon? So okay, so I got 3 kids, 7, 14, 15. Now, I walk in the house, my 14-year-old is angry. My 7 and 15-year-old are okay. They're la la land.
Okay.
My 14-year-old's angry. And this happens so many times that it's weird to me. I'll go in and I'll deal with my 14-year-old, however I have to do to break that anger. And all of a sudden, my 7-year-old's angry.
Girl, you don't even know what we talking about. What you angry for?
Like the mood just jumped. It jumped. Am I the only one? Like it would jump.
Really?
Sometimes I walk in and it's just like, man, I know this is weird, but anyone relate to this? I will come in, one person's angry, I fight that battle, and then now I'm dealing with
It's a
someone else's
domino.
anger. Right. And then I deal with that one, and then someone else is angry.
What?
Like sometimes I have to call the whole family together. I'm like, hold on, guys, listen.
Not a family meeting.
Whatever this angry mood is in this house, we just gonna stop right now.
Really?
Because I came in, I wanted peace. I'm real big on peace. You know what I mean? I want to come in, I want to feel happy in my home. But I notice sometimes when I pay attention that there's just this lingering mood that hangs around. And sometimes I have to address not just an individual person, I have to address everyone because everybody is just jumping around. I don't know.
I would love to hear from the other people if they've had that experience.
Right.
That wasn't my experience. Maybe because I only had 2. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know nothing about that.
Because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like, and I guess I'm saying it because sometimes I feel like I fight an uphill battle. I feel like I'm coming into a war I didn't start.
And then you in a house full of number women.
Women.
Child.
So that I'm blaming it
Yeah.
on women for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I have 5 women in my house.
Oh man.
5. I have my mom,
Ah,
my
I forgot
wife.
about mama.
Yeah, my mom, my wife, and my 3 daughters.
Bruh.
But it's been like that majority of my life. Outside of
My
my
hand is
brother,
off to you.
man, I've been around a lot of women.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just an emotional thing. Lord knows I ain't gonna say nothing else. I
Right,
don't want
right,
nobody fight me. Nobody fight. But this guy has some kind of emotional
Yeah.
thing. But sometimes I walk in my house and I feel like I'm fighting an uphill battle. and that as a man, I'm just talking from a male point of view. Man, I hate that, man. That's hard sometimes. It's hard to have to come home and battle harder at home than I do in the world.
Right. And that happens. Dang, I'm sorry.
And then I don't got no peace because I used to have a man cave. We call it the media room now.
The media room, dang.
Because it ain't no man cave.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even go in it no more. My girls are taking over it. But I'm gonna get my basement. I'm gonna turn my basement into my safe haven where I can escape.
So I have a question. I want to touch back on something you say. Why are you a pushover? Okay, and then the part B to that is, what do you think being a pushover, how do you think, it's going to be being a pushover is going to help your kids later?
That's a great question. I'm a pushover because I've seen too many, and when I say pushover, don't get it twisted. I'm not gullible. Like I know what I'm doing. So the things I'm allowing them to push over, I'm allowing it. Whether good or bad, I allow it because I know it is, but I can say no.
Right.
I don't have a problem saying no. I don't know. I think for me, I'm a negotiator. I'm a communicator. And if we can communicate, to me, I think that's more beneficial than just making my point. Growing up, I felt like I had a lot of people telling me what to do. Just saying, do this, do this, do this. And I didn't have any room to state an opinion or even question why I should be doing this. And I had to relearn a lot of things as an adult because I didn't know why I was doing it. And I think for me, I'm trying to make sure I balance my daughter's curiosity and ideas and thought processes along with my responsibility to keep them safe. So I try to be flexible. And I always just, because I could. I mean, I'm a big dude. I'm a strong dude. I could literally tell them whatever I want them to do and make them do it. I know I could do that. But I don't choose to do it because I want them to feel that they can articulate and communicate their needs and be heard. Now, at the end of the day, if I feel like it's going to be dangerous or something that goes against my principles, then yeah, it's just a no-go.
Right.
They'll ask me several times, but they know it's a no. And it won't change.
That's what you said. If you think that it's something that goes against your principles, right? So I'm sure your kids know it's about your principles. And so 1, 2, or all 3 of them, when they get older, may be like, well, we didn't get to have our own principles because my dad. So I'm saying it's always gonna be something with these
I can
kids.
see that. No, you're right.
Always.
You're right.
But that's still good, that you're trying.
Yeah, and I tell them, I was like, yeah, in my house,
okay,
is my principles. When
you want to pay these bills?
When you grow up and you get your own house, you could choose to go again. I'll be sad that you didn't choose my principles because I felt my principles were good. But you have the right to choose whatever principle you pick. But what you won't do is say it's my daddy's fault.
Right.
When it don't work out.
Right. That's what you can't do.
That's what you won't do. Because I'm going to remind you of what I gave you.
Right.
And what you chose.
No, you thought you was grown, right?
Yeah, you thought you knew better.
So sit with that then, boo.
You don't want to serve God. You don't want to go to church. You don't want to pray. You don't want to do this.
Right.
You want to go wild out. You want to go get a bunch of earrings and tattoos.
Don't do that. I got tattoos and earrings.
I'm excessively. Like, you want to go do that, and then you get upset when things don't quite work out the way you want.
Right.
Hey.
But then who's to say it would quite work out your way?
True. I agree.
Yeah.
Because, once again, I've seen kids wild out and succeed. I know a kid who didn't do anything his mom tried to teach him, and what you call worldly success. I mean, he makes good money, he has a stable job, has a family, is a kid, reasonably responsible individual.
So there was this conversation I had with my best friend, and I'm gonna try to be really quick with it. So he was saying that he works with obviously a lot. He's a black man. He works with a lot of white men, and he hears the white men's stories about their childhood, and it's so like the opposite of ours, such as them being able to call their parents by their first name, them being able to yell and throw fits and cuss and stuff at their parents, them being able to slam doors in a house.
Yeah. Nah.
Okay. Right.
Nah.
I wish you would.
There's no disrespect. You can't disrespect me. Now I'm gonna let you finish, bro. Let me just say this.
You good.
You can't disrespect me.
Right.
Now, when I say soft, we're talking about negotiating whether or not you can go to your friend's house.
Agree.
Or, you can stay up an hour.
Agree.
You coming in and disrespecting me, that's a no-go.
I remember my mama told her, and I'm going to get back to my sister. My mama told my sister one time, I can't remember what she was doing, but she was wilding. And that's when we had the cordless phones. And my mama say, I'm going to dial the 9 and the 1. Here. You could dial the other one if you bad. You want to try me. Like, I don't give a fuck. Call who you want to call. I'm beating your ass, But, yeah, so.
Well, I ain't never had a parent say, I'm going to dial the 9 and the 1.
Yeah, she was trill.
I'm gonna remember that one, man.
I got a 9 and 1. You only got one button to push.
Hit 9-1.
Yeah.
You finish it. You think you bad enough.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And
but
so.
These kids these days will do it.
The punk ass kids.
They
would do it.
They'll do it too. They'll do it. They're like, all right, I know my rights.
Right. And now I got to deal with the poet. Anyhow. So best friend. His thought was that I would say white childhood has an advantage over growing up black because they get to express themselves. That way, by the time they become adults, they're more emotionally stable in his eyes, like my best friend's eyes, than we are black children as adults who were quote unquote having to suppress emotions. What say you? Right.
We have to see. So here's something I learned. Let me go clinical for just a minute. Here's something that I learned in school. Your experience may not necessarily support the data. Mm-hmm. You may have a hypothesis, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's fact.
Educated guess, yeah.
For real. Educated guess. Because I remember doing a research project, and I was for sure, I knew this was going to be the answer until I did the data. And the data doesn't lie. So I'm going to say this on that. I think there are just as many screwed up white folks as there are black folks. And I think there's just as many good white folks as there are good black folks. I think that label, those ideas is people's way of making themselves feel like they're okay.
Right.
Because we'll say the same thing from our experience. Like we didn't do this, we didn't do that, and y'all did this and did that. So yeah, I wouldn't subscribe to that unless I saw some data. You got to give me some hard evidence.
Okay. You got to see the facts. I'm with you.
Yeah, because I don't believe that not 1 minute.
Right.
And as a counselor, I get to see behind the veil. So hey, we all screwed up. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care where you from, what walk of life, what ethnicity. We all are screwed up. We all have challenges, and we all got to grow. And I think we just got to keep having it. We as a community, the thought I keep having is how it was other people that were trusted adults that were not in my home who gave me guidance and advice that helped me appreciate what I had in my home.
They helped you appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay.
Helped me appreciate what I had. Because I remember going to my uncle just one time and mad at my mom. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to not be here like physically, but I don't want to be at my home. I'm ready to go. She keep treating me like I'm a child. And my uncle was like, boy, this woman has poured everything to make you safe.
Everything
to make you safe. You better appreciate it because you about to go into the real world. And I'm telling you, ain't none of them holding your hand.
They don't give a crap about you.
Ain't none of them holding your hand. You better take advantage of all you get right now because it's gone. And he kind of shut me down. I stopped, whining for a minute. I was whining for a minute. So I just appreciate just having this conversation. I hope for those that are listening that, you appreciate this, subscribe, like, share, because this conversation is important. And if we don't have the normal community, maybe we could do an online community that start holding our families accountable, encouraging the parents and the kids.
To the parents, it's okay. Give yourself grace. Be kind to yourself. I'm sorry. Let me step back. If you doing what you're supposed to be doing, if you not, no, it's not okay. But if you are really pouring into your children and you're giving them everything that you got, like, just know they still not gonna like you for something. But you got to be okay that you gave them your absolute best and just let everything work out as it's supposed to, as it's going to. As the old folk used to tell us, just keep living, child, and all things are going to make sense. That's what I would say.
I want to thank our sponsor, Touch of Peace Counseling Services, for providing us this opportunity to bring this episode to you. Once again, like, subscribe. That's how we'll be able to keep going on the way we're doing. This is John.
And Jasika.
This is The Deep End.